All right, welcome back to hour number two of Middays with Q on this Wednesday, May 14th. Rich Quinones here. Our good friend Johnathan Marshall covers the NBA sports reporter anchor at WMUR, also host of Marshall Time Pod with his brother. They do a great job. Check them out on YouTube and, of course, wherever you get your podcast form. Kind enough to join us. It is a Wednesday, so we've got an opportunity this evening for my New York Knicks to go out and clinch a Eastern Conference Finals appearance, the first in 25 years, but they still have to get through your Boston Celtics, and we'll get into the NBA draft lottery in a moment. But let's kind of go around the league when it comes to the NBA playoffs. I know when we were breaking down the playoffs, I thought the Knicks had a puncher's chance. I thought maybe the series can go maybe six. I didn't expect them to win two on the road to start the series down 20 plus. And then we knew the Knicks historically always get blown out and they lose game threes. They bounce back. They get the big win in game four. Brunson, Hart, OG, Robinson, free throws aside. It was a collective team effort. The story is Jayson Tatum playing like an absolute stud, a beast, torn ACL. He had 42. I don't know, obviously, out for the rest of the playoffs. I don't know how the Boston Celtics even remotely respond tonight, but I do believe they'll rally and they will play hard at home. I mean, do the Knicks close it out? A, and B, that had to be a gut punch for the Boston Celtics to see Tatum go down in that non-contact injury.
Yeah, I mean, Q, watching sports for so long, you know how these things go. Things can change quickly, right? And so you talk about the Celtics, we haven't had a repeat champion in it feels so long, right? And so if there was any team in recent years that was built to repeat, popular opinion was the Celtics squad with Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, with the solid vets, and Derek White, Drew Holiday, Al Horford, right? This team was built to repeat. One wrong turn, and you see it all change. Not just this year, but next year. And it goes to show you how crucial each possession, each game is come playoff time. Games one and games two, maybe we don't have this conversation. If you if you decide to just protect the 20-point lead, which means don't be careless with the ball.
Correct.
Don't jack up these three-pointers.
That's the other thing, living
Play
and
aggressive
dying.
basketball.
Yep, living and
right?
dying by shooting threes.
That's the conversation that you got to have. Those first two games, there's no excuse. You're home. You have 20-point leads in the fourth quarter.
What was
Those should be wins.
Was it more of just they figured, they can turn it on, turn it off anytime they want? Like they were actually shooting threes that they were down 15 in that game with 6 minutes to go. Like it's horrible. What was it? 60 attempts and 45 in two games?
Shame on them for believing that way. As a coach for Joe Mazzulla, you got to have an understanding of the energy, the vibe of the game. What do we need to do to adjust? I get it. You have a style of play, but you got to recognize that you have guys that can take advantage of matchups. Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown. These are guys that can take advantage of a Jalen Brunson. Why aren't you attacking? You have no rim protection with the Knicks. What are we talking about here?
No.
This is simple basketball, Q.
I think they were looking at, even when Cat was in foul trouble, even late, I think it was game two, they did not want Robinson. They don't want to call timeout that last possession with Tatum because I think they didn't want McBride back on the floor for defensive purposes. But even Robinson out there, they were afraid to have him out there just for rebounding purposes and at least clog the lane.
Right.
But look, 3-1 is vastly different than 2-2. Even if it's 2-2 without Tatum, you still feel pretty comfortable. I feel 3-1, gut punch, you lose Tatum, and I don't know. The Knicks need to go out tonight, play this as if it's a game seven. They do not want to give the Boston Celtics any type of life whatsoever. And if Brunson has to chuck it up 25, 30 times tonight, so be it. They cannot, I'm nervous because I've seen this before, and my buddy was just texting me, scared animals. You back them in a corner, and what do? They come out fighting. They come out scratching and clawing. And if this is a fourth quarter game and the Knicks are up by 6 late, it's white knuckler time for me, and that's not a good thing. I would like to see them maybe up by 16, 17, and the Boston Celtics, with under 6 to go, have resigned to the fact that okay, we'll regroup.
Here's the thing. So, oddly enough, though, I trust the Knicks more in late game situations than the Celtics,
Well, you have to now with
ironically,
no. Well, that's true because Brown,
because
Tatum. Yeah,
Jalen Brunson in this series is he's the clutch player of the year for a reason, right?
yeah.
He's definitive in what he does, right? He attacks, he gets to his spots, he knows how to maneuver and manipulate the defense to get guys up in the air. Like we haven't seen that consistently from anybody on the Celtics roster, right? And so Jalen Brunson has shown an ability for years now. Now that he's stepped up in his role, he's ready for those moments. His bag, so to speak, is built for those moments more than any other player in this series, right? And so I trust that's the problem with this series. The Celtics, once the fourth quarter comes and it's a close game,
Yeah.
you got to question, okay, do the Celtics, do they have the wherewithal to attack? Do they have the wherewithal to have a go-to? And this is the shot that I want. I'm going to get to my spot. I'm going to do it confidently. We just haven't seen that from Jaylen Brown, the end of the game, the ball getting taken away from Jayson Tatum, confused with what he wants to do in the air. Like these are
Game
things that
two.
we've seen from those two
Yep.
guys, right? And so Jalen Brunson, he may not make every shot, but I never question that he's going to get something off.
What What do you do now if you're the Boston Celtics? Let's just say they go on and they lose tonight. They lose the
Yeah.
series in five, and then you've got players. You've got a lot of high priced players on that squad: Brown, Tatum, White, Porzingis. Tatum coming off, just he had surgery for the ruptured Achilles tendon, but that's a 5 year, $314 million deal, which was the largest in NBA history. That agreement basically extends his commitment to the Celtics through 2029, 30, and it begins, oh, by the way, with what season? 2025, 2020, next season when he's coming off this injury. So, like, I mean, that's,
An
they're in a,
expensive roster.
yeah,
I mean, they paid Jalen Brown a lot of money as well not too long ago. Got Porzingis, you got Drew Holiday, you got Derek White. It's two trains of thought, Q, when it comes to this situation. Either you tell the fans, and the fans have to understand this, yeah, we're gonna compete, right? And I say that with quotation, right? We're going to compete, knowing that a lineup of Jalen Brown, Derek White, Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, who we'll see if Al Horford comes back, Drew Holiday, Peyton Pritchard. It's not a horrible lineup, right? In the Eastern Conference, especially. That's a playoff team, right? That's fair to say. Now, beyond that, we don't know. We'll give ourselves a shot. We'll be in the fight. We see it. We've learned in these playoffs with the top two seeds. Well, the Cavs are out. The Celtics could be out soon. Anything can happen. You never know
right.
what can happen. And just get yourself in the field, and we'll see what happens. But the Celtics fans have to understand and have realistic expectations. Or there's the radical route and really shaping up your franchise in a better shape for the next few years. You go that route and figure out, okay, what teams could use a Drew Holiday? Can we unload a Porzingis who hasn't shown the ability to stay healthy consistently? How much more can we rely on this?
Correct.
Because the quiet story is if Porzingis is even 80% and able to provide anything of value, we could be having a different conversation in this series. He's looked horrible. I don't know what this illness
Not
is, but
100%.
he's a non-factor. And that's very crucial.
Well, listen, you can't apologize for that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, nor would I. Then
Yeah.
you mentioned that Cleveland Indiana series, and
Uh-huh.
Strauss with the text message, or then it comes out and bites him in the fanny. You and I talked about Cleveland if they had staying power, and I thought they had a
Yeah.
remarkable regular season. Pacers are a different animal of late in the playoffs. They earned it. They deserve it. They'll meet whoever comes out of that Knicks and Boston series, and if it's the Knicks and Indiana in the Eastern Conference Finals, buckle up. But um, are you surprised that the Pacers were able to dispatch the Cleveland Cavaliers in five?
No, because what have the Cavs proven to us in the playoffs? I
Even though
mean,
even though they're still a young team, though,
yeah.
are they more a line of like the Atlanta Hawks a couple seasons ago?
Uh it's definitely a situation that you can compare as far as regular season
I mean,
Giants,
64
right? Come
wins is
playoff time.
64 wins, man.
Yeah, exactly, right? But these still are the Cavaliers, and without LeBron James, and what have they shown us in the playoffs time and time again, right? Jared Allen not too long ago said the lights were too bright, right? Let's not
Yeah.
forget. So, um, I've talked about my issues with the Cavaliers. I don't believe in the backcourt of Mitchell and Garland. I think this is the backcourt is too small. That's just a fundamental philosophy that I have when it comes to basketball. That's still an issue that I have when it comes to this franchise moving forward. So at the end of the day, Donovan Mitchell had a comment pretty much saying, look, it doesn't matter what we do next year. Nobody's going to care. We can go 82-0, and it doesn't matter. I'm like, well, correct. Because how many more times are you going to have these great regular seasons and you can't even make the conference finals? And I don't want to
Yeah.
hear injuries as an excuse because if you're out there, you got to hoop. You got to play. If you're out there, I'm assuming that you're able to play. If not, you can sit down. So as a Cavaliers fan, if you're a Cavs fan, the regular season at this point shouldn't matter. A lot of franchises, a lot of fans should feel that way about a few of their teams. The regular season shouldn't matter because 60 wins and we're sitting home after the second round. It's like, what are we doing here? And maybe next, if there's another exit in the second round for the Cavaliers, they got a choice to make. You're going to keep doing this merry-go-round, or what are we going to do? Because pretty soon, what do we talk about, Q? These teams hold on for too long. The
Sure.
Trailblazers, the Wizards, the
Yep.
Sixers, the Bulls.
They're in purgatory.
The window closes quickly for these teams.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
championship window is not going to be open.
That could potentially be the case, perhaps the last gas for the Golden State Warriors. I think the T-Wolves,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
look, the Curry injury is unfortunate. I think the Timberwolves blow them out tonight. And
Yeah.
quite frankly, I think OKC closes out Denver tomorrow night. I mean, look, we can't sit there and say if Denver wins, it's a 7-game series. We can't sit there and say, well, they shouldn't have fired the head coach and the GM. Well, they pushed them to 7 games, even 6 games. When you fire a GM and a head coach with 3 games left in a season, pretty much you're expected, no matter what happens, if you make the playoffs or not, especially if you make the playoffs, maybe you're going to roll over like a bunch of distractions. They pushed through that, past that.
Yeah.
But OKC, they're a machine right now. They are a well balanced oil machine. I know they're laying 4.5 tomorrow night, but I like them tomorrow night, and I like the T Wolves tonight.
Yeah. OKC, the question, I've been championing this franchise for a couple years now.
Yes, you
And
have.
last night they showed me, okay, they're ready because that
Yeah,
was the question, right? Are they ready
take
for
the next
these
step.
moments come playoff time? And they've done it, right? It was all talk about, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Warriors would be a challenge for the Thunder. Well, 2 of those teams are out. The Warriors on the brink of being out, and they're about to take out the best player in the league. What are you going to say now? And I kind of feel like the way that Jokic was playing last night, for the fact that SGA took that and really made some huge shots on his own account. I think facing whoever they face in the next round, after getting past a Denver and what they offer and that experience, I think it's going to feel like a breeze.
Mm,
Like we got through Denver, we got through Jokic. You saw the shots that he was making last night.
sure.
That's crazy. Minnesota, I mean, Ant-Man, yes, he's a talent, but he's not the Joker. He's just it's a different beast. And so going through that battle, giving up that was it game 1 when they just I don't know how they gave up that one, but going through those experiences, those ups and downs, having to come back against the Denver Nuggets team with a Jamal Murray, with an Aaron Gordon, going through that, I think they're built. I think they're ready to go now. I think they know this is our time. Looking at whoever is out there, the Celtics, they're not as good as they are as we would have expected. Whoever we play from the Eastern Conference, I think they should be the favorite right now.
Right.
So this is an opportunity. Like, if you're the Thunder, like, this is because the Celtics and the Cavs were probably the top 2 teams you're
Yeah,
looking at as
take
far as
advantage of it. Golden State's banged up. You got rid of Denver. Take advantage of it. Your time.
now it's like, the Timberwolves, yes, but even watching the Timberwolves against the Warriors, there are moments where I'm like, come on, there's no Steph Curry. You should not be struggling with the Warriors. I don't want to
Right.
see any.
But it is the NBA. You got role players,
It's
you got
true.
bench. It's all about the
This is
runs,
true.
right? Guys
This
step
is
up,
true.
they make it
Yeah,
closer than it has to be.
yeah. But I don't think you should be worried about Minnesota or Golden State if you're OKC. Like, we got through the clip. Well, Denver got through the Clippers, and then OKC gets through Denver, and it's like we got through Jokic. Like, who do we have to fear now?
All right. So everyone was watching the lottery the other night. Here we go. Rigged, fix. I gave out, I believe it was 6 or 7 examples. I mean, obviously, 85, everyone knows it's so prevalent. 1985 with Patrick Ewing and the Knicks and everything. But I mentioned 2008, Derrick Rose goes to Chicago, right? And the Bulls had, I think it was just under a 2% shot.
Yeah.
2011, Cavs get the number one pick after LeBron left the summer prior to 2012, right? Take my
Yeah.
talents down to South Beach. Pelicans get the number one pick after Chris Paul leaves 2014. The Cavs get the number one pick, and I think they're able to bring in Kevin Love to Cleveland 2019. The Pelicans getting the number one pick after Anthony Davis demands a trade in
Yeah.
2025. And then the Mavericks, I should say, I'm sorry, 2019, the Pelicans, and then 2025, forget my timeline, but you know where I'm going. 2025, the Dallas Mavericks get the number one pick after trading for Luka. So you
Right.
saw the Bulls, you saw the Cavs, you saw LeBron, you saw the Cavs again, Kevin Love, and then you saw the Pelicans, Anthony Davis, and now we see, and the Davis was 2019. Now we see the Mavericks, where everyone thinks it's a wink, wink deal. You trade it. Luca, we're going to give you Cooper Flag. Here you go. Keep the franchise in Dallas. Prevents the franchise from going to Vegas. So I think the optics and the perception, is everything. The optics look bad. I don't know how you reward a team like that, but be that as it may, the elephant in the room. I mean, is rigged a too strong of a word, or it's just, the basketball god shining a light on the Dallas Mavericks?
Look, it's a lottery, right? And in life, you're not promised something, right?
That's
Just
right.
because you're expecting, the Jazz were expecting, and their fans probably had a party, a draft watch party, and were expecting number one pick, and it's just not going to work out for you sometimes.
Yeah.
That's what a lottery is in its essence, right? And it's fun to talk about it's rigged and just the coincidence of things, and the Spurs getting the second pick and how convenient they can maneuver and get Giannis and team him up with Wemby, two international stars to lead the Spurs for their next generation of championship glory, right? Like it all looks good, right? And it's hard to battle that. But in the reality of it, look, it's a lottery, and the lottery means you never know how the odds are going to shake out. But it's tough though, right? Because for these teams like the Utah Jazz and the Washington Wizards, the Charlotte Hornets, the only way to get better is to draft and develop from within. And so now the question is, okay, this is a situation for Utah, Charlotte. Instead of, yes, it's disappointing that you didn't get the draft slot that you were expected. There's great talent all throughout the board. We talk about this, right? And so how do you trust your scouting staff? Do you trust your management? Do you trust your developmental staff to make the right choice? Because you can make a great pick at number 4. You can make a horrible pick at 1. It happens every year,
Sure.
right? And so
You can make a horrible
obviously
pick
this
at two
year,
or three and overlook guys.
exactly. Obviously, this year is different. You have Cooper Flag. He's the clear cut favorite, but you can find a great player at 6. You can find a great player at 13, right? And so I'm not one to blame the draft slotting for a team's failures. I blame your evaluation. I blame your developmental process. That's what I blame. If you got the 6th pick, you got to make it work. Like just got to make it work and see where it goes from there. But you got to focus on what the lottery odds have given you. You got to move past it. It is what it is. It's the reality of it, right? And so even with the Dallas Maverick situation, you're given a Cooper Flag, okay, but do you know what you're doing with the talent like that? Are you going to
Right.
develop him? Are you going to build the right foundation around him? I know
And they're
you
not
have
trading
Kyrie
that
Irving
pick.
and no, they're
Not to cut
not.
you off.
They
They're not
shouldn't.
trading that
They
pick.
shouldn't.
Why would you? That's
They
for
shouldn't.
people,
No,
yeah, to
they
speculate
shouldn't.
they're going to trade that pick is
Yeah.
utterly trade it back for Luca or trade it for Giannis.
No.
Come on,
Yeah.
stop.
No.
That team's going to be
For
stacked.
the Spurs, it makes sense. Yeah, for the
Sure.
Spurs, it makes sense. It makes sense, right? For Houston, it makes sense. For the Dallas Mavericks, no, it does
What
not.
now?
What you have now
Lastly,
is a bridge post AD and Kyrie. You have a
right.
bridge.
I don't know if you heard recent comments. You know, Daryl Morey. Comfortable selecting third, but
Mhm.
very honest when talking about, Embiid if. Now they just, by the way, promoted Jameer Nelson to assistant GM. That's great. Local product,
Yeah,
perfect.
for sure.
Um, but if Embiid, in essence wants to hang around, wants to stay, like I I I do not trust this man to make the best pick. I don't trust this man to do what's best for the organization. I don't trust this man to do what's best for the fan base. Right now, he
Yeah,
basically came out and said that he feels comfortable about the player who's going to be there. Well, it's going to be two players, right? It's either going to
yeah,
be Ace or it's going to be Harper. That's it, because we know
right,
Flag's going number one.
right. Yeah. Um, and I tweeted this out, I think yesterday. whatever thinking the Sixers have when it comes to building this roster,
Yep.
Joel Embiid should be the last thing on their mind.
But they're not
Paul
but
George should,
they're not doing that.
that's the issue. I don't want to hear anything about Joel Embiid. He's going to have his surgery. He had it, I guess, like whatever. At this point, I have no expectations for Joel Embiid anymore. I do not, because I don't know how the surgery is going to react once he's on the floor. Can he even play back to backs? That's still a question that Daryl Morey and Embiid have to answer. I hope the media in Philly does not like. They have to answer that question. They have to ask that question. Can you play back to back still? That's an issue, right?
Well, I think we already know
Yeah.
the answer to that. If he's not
Like
going to, if he didn't
so.
do it this year before they shut him down, what makes us think he's going to be healthy for the rest of his career? What makes any logical NBA
Mhm,
fan or
mhm.
media member or just a novice fan believe that he's going to be able to play back to back?
So if he can't play back to back, Paul George is a year older. You have Max, you have McCain, you have the third pick. What are you doing? How does this drastically change the outcome of getting past the second round? If you have the Knicks, the Pacers, the Cavaliers will still be good. The Magic are going to be better, right? The Pistons are going to be better. How are you competing with the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference if your core piece cannot play back to backs?
I
What are we
feel
doing
I,
here?
but there's a spot in the NBA where, or I've used the term for years. I
Mm.
always believe that an eight seed can beat a one seed. It's rare.
It can
It's
happen.
it's very, 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 very rare. And now
Yeah,
we know what the everything. Okay.
right.
But point being is if you're winning your 30, 35, 40 games, back in the day a year and you're that sixth or
Mhm.
seventh, eighth seed, you're stuck in
Right.
NBA purgatory.
Of course.
And what I feel they've done is they put all their eggs in the Joel Embiid basket with the contract extension, which you and I
Yeah,
screamed at the top of our
yeah,
lungs, do not pay this man, trade him.
yeah,
I don't care. I even said trade him after he was MVP. Like get
yeah.
value, get something back because the wear and tear, the breaking down, the out of shape, the disinterested, the lack of heart, the lack of hustle, the no
Mhm.
dog in him, all this stuff. He's not a winner. He's a front runner. So
Yeah,
if you're a franchise, if you're an organization that you believe you've got the centerpiece or centerpieces, then logic says you build around that. Okay.
right.
But I believe they are making concessions to build around a broken down player just because they gave him a substantial amount of
Of
money and
course.
now it's buyer's remorse. And when you try to build a franchise like that, you wind up like the
Yeah.
aforementioned teams you mentioned.
Yeah, no, they're stuck. In the same case with Paul George, right? If you watch the Sixers this year, Paul George is not the same. He can't beat guys off the dribble anymore. The offense is just hard to generate with Paul George. Like he's just not the same. Like it's just the reality. He's an older player now. It's okay to call guys old in the NBA, like and face that reality. And so for the Sixers, once you've given this money to PG and Embiid, you've invested this time and energy. Of course, especially a guy like Daryl Morey, he's not going to say that he's wrong. He's not going to say we have to restart. He's not going to do that. He's put too much effort in. He's invested too much into this, and also it's a business too. So if Joel Embiid, the hope and promise of Joel Embiid having a successful surgery, right? That's going to give fans hope. Like, okay, maybe this year is different. This is the guy who worked on Kawhi's knees, knowing that everybody's different. One successful surgery does not mean it's going to be the same for you, especially a guy like Joel Embiid, who's heavier, who's a bigger guy. Like it's just you can't compare Kawhi to Joel Embiid. Just don't compare
Okay,
anybody
so
to
with all
like
that
it's,
being,
things are
everything
different.
you're
Yeah,
saying is
yeah,
100% accurate. It's
yeah,
insightful, and I agree
yeah,
with you. No argument.
yeah.
This GM is not the right GM because he's
No.
trying to appease
Mhm.
Embiid, and he's a used, snake oil salesman. He's not transparent. He's not, and all the stuff with the
Yeah.
Harden stuff years later, it tends to be true, but
Hmm.
people don't want to talk about that. So
Yeah.
I, I I would not want him make. They're not going to do anything. They're not. You're not. They're not
No.
going to fire him. But I can
No.
say right now,
Yeah.
if you believe in Beats coming back healthy, and you got Maxi and younger players and George and some role players, and you have the number three overall draft pick, and you still can't win, then he needs to go.
Yeah.
If they struggle next season and they don't make the playoffs or get bounced in the first round, you got to start looking in a different direction. Do you not?
No. Daryl Morey has to go. Joel Embiid has to go. and Paul George has to go.
Who the hell's going to take
Like
on that contract though? Like,
at this point, the reality is once you foolishly hold on for something that's broken too long, you have no right to say what you should get back. You just got to take what you can get at this point, right? Because what's the use of just wasting your time, wasting the time of developing younger guys and starting this process? Just get it over with. Like, what are we doing? Like that. That's just
it's a horrible
I,
contract.
I don't understand the philosophy of, well, we're not going to give equal value for Joel Embiid. Well, at this point, that doesn't matter. You've lost that ability to get that equal value. You just that's just the reality of it. But what's the point of wasting your time anyway? You're holding yourself back 4 or 5 years by holding on to something that just isn't going to work.
He signed that
Rip the band-aid
contract
off. Yeah,
last September. He played
yeah,
19 games this season,
yeah. Plus the
and they knew he
Olympics.
was
Don't forget the
hurt.
Olympics. Plus the Olympics.
It, I, yeah, I
it's
don't get
it's
it.
a it, it's a
Yeah,
foolish it's a foolish franchise. Daryl Morey lost me when he signed Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon, Reggie Jackson. You're signing guys in the mid-30s to play guard in the NBA when the NBA is routinely leaning athletic and younger, but you want
younger.
to pivot to older. Oh, all of a sudden now you come to a realization that we have to be younger. In 2025, Daryl Morey, you've been in this league forever now. You should not come to realization that we need to be younger and more athletic. That tells me you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, that's just point blank facts. This team isn't going anywhere. And they're like, what did we? It's the same conversation with this team. They're not winning a championship next year.
Okay,
They're not.
so what do you make of Bill Simmons's proposed package deal
Mm.
that the trade involves Embiid and the Lakers? Um, the Lakers would send multiple expiring contracts and draft picks to the 76ers in exchange for Embiid. So now the Lakers, they've addressed a center, and now the 76ers are able to offload Embiid's contract and build around, you know, Tyrese Maxey. I mean, I'm going to assume then, the Lakers aren't getting that number 3 pick.
Heck
So you
no.
do something with that pick and then you build around Maxey.
I mean, so the Sixers just get expiring contracts and draft picks.
Yeah.
I would rather get picks that have value. I'm not sure how valuable a Lakers
Or
first
maybe you
round
get
is
a
going to
third
be.
team involved.
Yeah, if that's the case, then yeah.
Portland, Atlanta.
Yeah, getting valuable picks, I'm okay with that. The
Okay,
reality
so you
is
you you
yeah.
propose it. What would you're the Sixers, you're going to send
Mhm.
Embiid. What are you getting back?
I would want to get at least a couple viable picks, first round, hopefully.
Yeah, but you're also remember, you're unloading that contract.
Right, of course. Of course. My dream wish would be at least one promising player in a couple picks. That would be my ideal deal for Joel Embiid. That would be the ideal
I
situation.
think you would know better than I would. I think because of the new um, CBA and the apron
Yeah.
rules, you're probably going to see more teams do 3-team trades as opposed
Probably, yeah.
to
Yeah, it
two.
gets tricky. It gets tricky with the salary. So when it comes to like the details of salaries and like it gets tricky, but on the surface, as far as what an ideal Joel Embiid situation looks like, I think at least a promising player and a couple picks. I think at the least that's what you have to aim for because you're not getting a proven young veteran in that deal. You're just not. You're not getting a star back. You're just not. You've that ship is sailed 2 years ago.
I mean, you look at a team if you had the Lakers and then let's say the Hawks, they need
Mhm.
interior defense, they need front court depth, shooting, right?
Yeah.
It's not the best free agent class to kind of fill these needs. So they're probably going to be very active in the trade market. And then, again, you have them involved. I mean, I want no parts of Embiid. I the Lakers.
Would a OKC want to MB? Would they want to take that in? You know,
I
maybe
mean, you're
not.
kind of what
Maybe
are we
not.
doing? We're recreating, the 81 Rockets or the 86 Rockets here, right?
I
Elijah
mean, yeah,
Wan and
yeah.
Ralph Sampson, Twin
You're
Towers.
honestly kind of stuck when it comes to Embiid, right? The Lakers could use Embiid, right? They could use a big guy, a proven big guy, but the Lakers don't have anything to offer that is valuable as far as building toward the future. They really don't. Like,
I
what young
here,
piece are you
here's
wanting to add from the Lakers?
so I think ultimately we kind of started the Embiid talk with it, and we'll kind of end the Embiid talk
Yeah.
with it. it all comes down to one word, health.
Hmm.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it. And he's proven throughout the course of his career he can't stay healthy. I mean, this guy played more than 66 games once in his entire career.
Hmm.
Once.
Hmm.
And I think that was 2021, 2022. He played 66 the following year and he played
Yeah.
63 and 64 his first two seasons. But remember, he missed how many games did he miss that rookie season?
That was most of the season. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the season.
Yeah.
Like, and the reality is, as has been the case since he's been in Philly, how Embiid goes, if the health is down, you're cooked. It's just not going
He
to
got
happen for
drafted
you.
in
So,
2014. He didn't start playing until 2016.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
think about that for a moment.
yeah, yeah. And
This
now you're telling me he's older now. He's only going to get older. Now you're telling me in 2025, 2026, we're expecting him to be back in MVP form. Logically, it doesn't make sense. Somebody has to like convince me of that. I don't, I don't buy it.
Yeah, I
Same for
mean,
Paul George too. I'm just not.
no, no, they're not the same. Listen,
I'm not
I
buying
remember
it.
being even even on the air locally down
Yeah,
here when they drafted Embiid and he
yeah.
had the issue in his foot. He missed the entire 14-15 season. And then I think it
Hmm.
was June, everyone was saying, what's going on? What's going on? What's his health? What's his health? He had another setback.
Yeah.
Um, and then basically he had a second he missed the first, two seasons of his career. And all the talk was when he's healthy, when he's healthy. Well, he's 287 feet. I mean, it's like, and now you're 30, 31, you're breaking down. So they are definitely kind of stuck between that rock and a hard place.
Listen, it's like I said, any talk when it comes to the Sixers and moving forward, there's a list, and Joel Embiid should be last on that list. Outside of trying to figure out how do we get rid of this contract, and the same with Paul George as well. You should not be focused on building this team around Joel Embiid. It
Yeah.
doesn't work. It
Yeah.
does not.
No, it's
You
just you
draft a
try
guy at
try to run
three,
it out with one more time. That's the problem.
whoever you draft at number three, build and develop that core with Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, Quentin Grimes. He showed promise. Like you have young guys on the roster that you can develop and build around.
Yeah.
Start from there. That should be the focus.
It,
Joel Embiid and Paul George there's just
eh, yeah, but
it's
you
a
know what? The
wait.
NFL does it too sometimes. They try to squeeze 2 to 3 more years out of a quarterback that's aging, right? And they don't fix the line. They don't give them weapons. They don't shore up the defense. They spend, like a drunken sailor. And
It's a business at the end of the day, right? You got tickets to sell. We got. They're hope sellers. There are more. He's selling hope. He's not selling reality. He's selling hope.
yeah,
And if you want to buy into it, good luck. But no longer can you be on this merry-go-round of the Sixers thinking this could be the year but no, it's not the year. They're going to get out of the first round or second round. They might not even make the playoffs. Who
Hmm,
knows? Embiid's knees could fail quickly again.
sure.
And we're back in the same conversation. You're
Yeah,
back in the lottery.
yeah.
Like, how many times you got to do this? So
Meanwhile, perhaps I'll be hoisting my first trophy in my lifetime as a Knicks fan. That would be nice.
you think so?
No, I
I
mean, listen,
mean,
I think they close out the Celtics tonight. I don't think it's going to be easy. I told you I don't want this series to go past tonight because anything can happen. I've seen blown 3-1 leads as a
yeah,
sports fan in my life, not only with the Knicks, but I've seen it
yeah.
also with the Yankees. I've seen it with the Rangers. I just close them the frig out, put them to bed, end this dynasty talk, rest up, and then it's going to be a battle against Indiana. And I'll tell you, I remember, when the Knicks made their run in '93. I felt they were the best team because they didn't have to go through
Mhm,
Jordan. They got through the
mhm.
Bulls, but they didn't have to go through
Yeah,
Jordan Bulls, right?
yeah.
They should have beaten the Rockets. Everyone knows the Starks
Mhm,
game. Okay, fine. They had ample opportunities to win that series, especially in game 6 and then game 7. And then Olajuwon had the block as well late. And Sam Cassell killed him. Kenny Smith killed him. Just big shot all over the place. Olajuwon, okay. 94, 95, they were really good teams. But then they had the battles with Indiana. They had the battles with the Miami Heat, right? They
mhm.
got
Yeah,
screwed in that series. The Childs, LJ, the suspensions, no Pat. And then, he started to wear down. When they
yeah.
made the run in '99, people forget that was during the lockout.
Yeah, that was a short and 50
It
game. I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
remember too, they went through Atlanta, and people really forget Latrell Sprewell was great. Houston in Miami, but
yeah,
Marcus Camby was
yeah,
absurd for them in the
yeah,
playoffs. The Camby man. So they get through
yeah,
Atlanta, they get through Miami, they
yeah.
got through Atlanta, and then I believe who the hell did they beat? I think they beat the Pacers again in '99.
Sounds about right. Yeah, it might have been the
When
Pacers.
they ran up when Patrick went down, they were not beating the Spurs, man. They
It wasn't Larry Johnson had a bad back that year, right? Wasn't his back pretty much
Larry
shot?
Johnson couldn't even get any lift.
Yeah, his body was cooked. I
I
remember
mean,
that. His
they
shot
had
was cooked.
Campy,
Yeah,
Childs,
yeah.
Allen Houston, Larry
That was a good
Johnson.
squad. That was a good squad.
It was a very very
Yeah,
good squad, and they played
yeah,
with a lot of heart. They played with a lot of
yeah,
hustle.
yeah.
But again, they people forget.
Hmm.
It was a great great run. It really
Oh yeah,
was. I
for
mean, think
sure,
about it.
for sure.
You win 27 games, 27 and 23. You get through Miami with Houston, then
Yeah,
Atlanta, then the Pacers in 6. The Spurs series, they just could not match up against that
that's too
young,
tough.
hungry,
Yeah,
right, that Spurs team. But
that's too
then what
tough.
made it worse is when they got back in 99, they won 50 games. They lost in 6 to Indiana.
Yeah,
Then they start to really the wear and tear. And look, I can go back on 94, 95. I
yeah.
mean, to me, 94, 94, they should have beat the Indiana Pacers. And, you
Hmm.
know, listen, everyone knows what happened. That was the finger roll game.
Yeah,
Patrick couldn't elevate, he couldn't dunk it.
yeah,
They lose in 7. They won 55 games that year. They had a great, great team. And then they ran up to the Bulls again, 95, 96. And then they ran up
yeah,
to Miami, and they should have won that series. And that was a 7-game
yeah.
series, too. So I don't leave anything for chance.
Oh yeah.
And if I'm them tonight, I play it like it's a game 7. I rout them, I put them out of their misery, and I just call it a day. I do not want this series going back to New York. I don't.
One thing about the Celtics squad is, yes, Tatum is a huge loss, but they have guys who have been known and have stepped up.
Brown,
So
White,
let's say if
maybe
let's say it's
Porzingis
a
has the game tonight. Who knows?
let's say it's a great shooting night for Boston, then it's like, okay, 3-2, we go to New York. Then you guys are feeling pressure because
That's exactly it. They're tightening up.
you do
And
not want to go back. You do not want to go to Boston
no, I
Court. I
mean,
promise you, you don't.
the kid Pritchard was knocking down left and right
Yeah,
big plays and
that's what I'm
threes and
saying.
taking Brunson off the
Yeah,
dribble. I don't want any.
yeah,
They listen. They need to win the battle of the boards tonight. They need to weather the
yeah,
early storm. They can't rely on the
yeah,
3-point shooting team. And if Boston
yeah.
goes ice cold because they can't make up for Tatum's offense,
Right.
then the Knicks will win the game by
Oh
10.
yeah. I think within the first, I think by the end of the first quarter, I think we'll be able to see what type of game this is going to be. I think early, it doesn't take long to see what time the Celtics are on. Like, okay, this is the Celtics game we're having tonight. Like I think we'll be able to have a good gauge of what's going on. But what you do not want to do is go back to New York with the possibility of them tying the series up.
No,
Because one thing, as we keep seeing in the
I'll be a
playoffs,
wreck.
the longer a playoff series goes,
Anything could happen.
injuries, foul trouble, just
Ridiculous no calls, bad calls.
you're opening up the door for bad things to happen. You know what I mean? Like
Again,
so,
who you telling?
yes.
You know.
Who you telling?
Well, that's true.
I've seen a
He of
lot
course,
too.
yeah, he of course is Johnathan Marshall, sports reporter, anchor at WMUR, also host of Marshall Time Pod with his brother, kind enough to join me on this edition of Middays with Q. All right, and hopefully the next time we speak, you know,
Man,
we'll have
man.
we'll have those little Nick jerseys already, for the little
Oh,
one.
that's the issue. He doesn't want to see the Knicks win a championship. He said, I can't stand this.
Doesn't want to come out.
I
No.
can't stand a world where the Knicks are NBA champions. He understands it. He
Long
gets
way
it.
to go, man. Just close them out tonight. Get me to the Eastern Conference Finals. I'll take my chances against Indiana, and we'll go from there.
We'll see.
All right, brother. Always appreciate a couple moments.
All right, Q.